do something that scares you because it scares you. You're trying to get to a place where when something's scary, you have the power to say, I don't care, I'm doing it anyway. There's a whole bunch of research that says cold showers are good for you, that it reduces anxiety, that it improves your immune system, that it can increase your metabolism. It can reduce the amount of time you call in sick from work. There's all of that. I'll tell you, there's a Stoic reason that I do this that has zero to do with health. There's two reasons I do it. The first is that there is a certain amount of invigoration and energy that comes out of it. So it shocks you, it wakes you up. But the other reason is what Seneca is talking about, is he says, we treat the body rigorously so it's not disobedient to the mind. I'm trying to show my body who's in charge. I don't want to do it, but I am doing it. And I'm starting the day, ideally, with that in mind. Or let's say I'm taking a shower and then I'm going to leave and go do a talk. I'm in a hotel room, whatever. I'm doing that to remind myself who's in charge, to assert dominance over myself in a way, to push my fears and comforts and all of those things away and remind myself who's in charge. There's a great Sports Illustrated article by Greg Bishop about the Los Angeles Rams on their way to the Super Bowl this year. And he was talking about Les Snead, who I've gotten to know. I've interviewed him on the Daily Stoic podcast. He's a practitioner and fan of Stoicism. And he was talking about Les's habit of doing a cold plunge in the Pacific Ocean each morning. So when the Rams made it to the Super Bowl in 2018, they made it all the way to the top of their game, and then they fell short. They had to not rebuild, but they had to make a lot of difficult decisions to get back to where they wanted to be. And the big part of the Rams strategy is that most teams hoard draft picks, thinking that draft picks are gonna help them find undervalued talent. Well, the Rams strategy is different. He makes big moves in the season, goes after big free agents, makes short-term deals for players that he thinks can get him where he wants to go. Now, this is anathema to almost all the wisdom and conventional practices of the NFL. Every time he does it, he gets attacked, he gets criticized, he gets doubted. And when they lost in the Super Bowl, and then the 2-year period where they were really struggling, people piled on. They said, you don't know what you're doing. This is not going to work. You're mortgaging the future of the franchise. So it's so cool to see this Sports Illustrated article by Greg Bishop. He's saying that inspired by Seneca, Les decides to do this plunge into the ocean each morning. And then when you see where it gets him to a place where he can make huge off-season and mid-season moves that, again, everyone doubted, that got him where he needed to be, that helped them win the Super Bowl this year. And it's an incredible achievement, but it starts by doing that scary thing to build up a habit and a tolerance for doing scary things. There's a story about the Austrian writer Stefan Zweig, and he had this fascinating habit. As he would travel, he would sometimes show up in a new city and pretend that he just kind of washed up there. He would go look for a job. He might even apply for a job or interview for a job. Even though he came from family money, even though his books had been very successful, he wanted to imagine what it would be like to start over in a new place. Could he do it? Was it possible? This is kind of like Seneca's practice of practicing poverty, of getting comfortable with that discomfort. Seneca said that as he would practice poverty, the idea was to look around at the mattress on the floor he's sleeping on or the rough cloak that he's wearing and be able to say, this is what you're afraid of? You can handle this. And you think about Zweig, the idea that he could rebuild his life, that he could move to a new place and get a new job and build new relationships and support himself. And he does have to do this. World War I and World War II both send Zweig out as a refugee. And he has to rebuild his life, not quite as dramatically as he'd practiced, but the point was, he knew he could handle it because he'd practiced handling it. One of the reasons that scary things scare us is that we exaggerate them in our mind. We make them bigger than they actually are. We extrapolate out all the way to the end. Marcus Aurelius says, don't let your life be crushed by your imagination. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. He says, stick with the situation in hand. It's not nearly as unbearable as you think it is. And so I think one of the ways we can handle scary things, like a life of scary things, is by practicing these little scary things. Jerry Seinfeld has this joke that the number one fear for people is public speaking, and like the number two fear is death. And he's saying that means that at a funeral, someone would rather be in the casket than delivering the eulogy. Cato, the famous Stoic, would wear unusual clothes. He walked around bareheaded and barefoot. He knew people were judging him. You have to cultivate this ability inside yourself to be indifferent to what other people say or do or think about what you're doing. That skill of like getting up in front of an audience, making a video, you have to cultivate that indifference to what other people think about you. If you're looking for something scary to do, look for something public. Go up and talk to a stranger. Wear something that's going to draw a little attention to you, right? Cultivate that not being afraid of how this is going to look to other people or what might go wrong or the awkwardness or the vulnerability of that, because that's a super powerful asset to have. But look, the idea that you should do something every day that scares you, what is the point of all this? I realize that it's a bit tautological, that you should do something that scares you because it scares you, but that's the point. You're trying to get up close and personal. You're trying to get comfortable with it. You're trying to get to a place where when something's scary, you have the power to say, I don't care, I'm doing it anyway. We're treating the body rigorously, as Seneca said. When we have doubts, when people are criticizing us, when something seems unpleasant, we want to cultivate the willpower, the strength that allows us to push through it, that almost looks forward to it. So when I crank that knob in the shower, I'm not doing it for the health benefits, although I hope they're there. I'm doing it because I want to be the kind of person that pushes through what I'm afraid of. In fact, that does the things that I am afraid of. And that's why you need this practice in your life too. I hope you like this video. I hope you subscribe. But what I really want you to subscribe to is our daily Stoic email, 1 bit of Stoic wisdom, totally for free to the largest community of Stoics ever in existence. You can sign up at dailystoic.com/email. There's no spam. You can unsubscribe at any time. I love sending it. I've sent it every day for the last 6 years, and I hope to see you there at dailystoic.com/email.